Afternoon, we asked you, the viewers, what you wanted to know about candidate Mills and her vision for Maine. She joins us now to give us some answers. Thank you for joining us.
Good to see you.
We're starting with the big one.
Oh,
in your
okay.
announcement, you said the opioid epidemic would be a major issue in your campaign, and you specifically referred to the current governor's refusal to take action.
Yeah.
So how would your administration handle this differently?
Well, first of all, you know, a year and a half ago, the legislature, with consent of the governor, authorized 10 more detox beds in the Bangor area. Those beds have yet to be opened. There's no good reason for that. It shouldn't take a year and a half to just open 10 new beds, new treatment beds for this, to treat people with substance abuse disorders. We need more than 10 beds. We need more detox facilities, more outside treatment facilities, more medication-assisted treatment. I want to encourage every primary care physician to become a provider of medication-assisted treatment. I want to get out to the schools a lot more, get into education and prevention. We've got to get the message out there that you can't be taking just one dose of heroin. It could be the last time you take it. And you know, I personally distributed Narcan to 55 different police stations across the state. As of last weekend, we've saved 208 lives with that Narcan. I'm pretty proud of that, but now we got to get those people into treatment and make sure they don't overdose again.
We're getting some questions here on Facebook, and Alicia
Sure.
wants you to explain what happened with the tribal issues with the Penobscot River.
Oh, a good question. The tribe brought suit 5 years ago before I was Attorney General. They sued to establish some exercise dominion and control over the Penobscot River. They asked the court to rule. The court did rule. They appealed. The appeal was just decided. I'm anxious to work with the tribes to make sure that we have the most pristine waters all across Maine, not just the Penobscot River, but all of our rivers and water bodies. We have what the EPA nationally has called some of the best water quality in the country. I want to make sure it stays that way, and I look forward to working with the Penobscot tribe and other tribes to make sure that happens.
All right, Diane is asking, what will you do to bring higher paying jobs to Maine?
Good question, question of the century. You know, I think we want to bring what's making southern Maine prosperous to the rest of Maine, for one thing, and that means extending our infrastructure, making sure we have the best infrastructure, not just roads and bridges, which are needy in many ways, many places, but also broadband and energy infrastructure. Bring what's good in the southern part of Maine to the rest of Maine. That means encouraging and bringing to Maine entrepreneurs, investing in research and development, making sure that the people who are here now, the technology companies like Tilson Tech, Fluid Imaging, those kinds of companies are going to stay here, that we have a consistent regulatory environment, consistent tax policy, the kinds of things that bring businesses here and keep them here, and bring that to the rest of Maine too. I grew up in Farmington, and I delivered newspapers as an 8-year-old kid and waited tables in the Shiretown restaurant, so I know what the working life is like in the rural parts of Maine, and I want to bring those jobs back to the rural parts of Maine. So. On
that note, Brendan wants to know, are there plans to lower the tax burden for Mainers, and what will you do to keep young people working and living here?
That's two different questions. I raised 5 daughters here. I married a widower with 5 children. They're all grown up now, and I have grandchildren. I want to make sure, I want them to leave, and I want them to come back. I want them to feel comfortable coming back here. So that ties back to the earlier question, how do you make sure there are good jobs here for them to come back to? And that means preserving our natural environment, preserving a good regulatory structure, a consistent tax structure, and making sure we have good schools. Young families stay where there are good schools for their kids to grow and learn, and that's very important. Let's take what's good about Yarmouth schools, Cape Elizabeth schools, and make sure they're happening in Washington, Piscataquis, and Franklin counties too.
One more question here. Did you see a possibility for Maine to follow in California's footsteps, offering single-payer health care?
Well, we don't usually follow California.
Little different.
In an ideal world, I am for single-payer. As a practical matter, it's very difficult to implement in a small state like this, but ideally I am for universal health care. One of the first battles I took on against the LePage administration was fighting to preserve health care for low-income 19 and 20-year-olds. He took it all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States, and I beat him back, and we preserved fundamental Medicaid expansion for that group, 19, 20-year-olds who were working their tails off and not going to college, but working low-income jobs and unable to afford health insurance otherwise.
All right, Attorney General
mumble.
Janet Mills, thank you. The latest to join in the governor's race. Thanks for joining us. Lee?